Hello everyone, welcome to another video by the Backup Chargers. Today we got a really cool little deck profile for you. This is what I'm most likely going to be playing a lot this season, which is Looking Glass Seiryuu. So without further ado, we are looking at our Divine Relic, the Looking Glass. This card is really important for this game plan because it gives us a value engine and a secondary win con in case our Seiryuu does in fact die, or early damage, etc. This lets you just play your distortion cards ignoring their element requirement, which is overrated in most decks, but I think it's very cool here, specifically. Next, for our Spirit, we are playing Fragmented Spirit of Wind. You honestly can get away with any of the Wind Spirits. If you want to do the normal Wind Spirit, that's fine. The extra card initially is pretty okay. I like being able to have a Glimpse Spirit personally for this, and I value having that late game extra influence. It can be very relevant depending on the deck. So again, Fragmented Spirit of Wind is what I prefer, but you can kind of do whichever Spirit of Wind and you'll still be fine. Then we do have Guoja, level 1, level 2, and level 3. Oftentimes we will in fact level to level 3 and paying cost, either with a DG or by just paying with our memory, and that's completely fine in this list. You'll kind of see that in the gameplay video that we just released, but you are in fact playing a full lineage, and getting to level 3 gives you access to a couple little cards that you can play. We are playing Fabled Azurite Fatestone, which flips to Seiryuu. So Fabled Azurite Fatestone lets you dig through the deck for the early mid-game, gives you a lot of value, and then once you flip it over, you can use it as a nice big taunter. It is a 4/12, which will then also be a primary win condition in the deck, generating those Arcane Blasts and doming for 11 while hitting for 4 with attack damage, kind of hitting on two fronts. Then, in terms of our kind of utility pieces, we have Terrafring. I'm going with Terrafring mainboard, and we do have Safeguard Amulet in the side. I am kind of main deck a little bit more wary of combat damage decks, anything with allies, etc. Portentous Tengu, a little bit of draw, gets the extra quest counter, which giving a little bit of an off turn is very nice in this deck. Sometimes you don't find your draw engine and you just need an extra card for influence. Censor, very good card. You have to play it in this meta. Specters are everywhere, Liminal Guides, shuts off float. You only play 5 total float in this list, which is... Sometimes you'll have float, you don't really care about it too much though. Orb of Regret, it's kind of a weird one. We do have Fragmented Spirit to glimpse away stuff we don't want in hand, but sometimes you just draw it anyway. So, in case you ever find some of the cards I'll bring up later, this is a good pick depending on what your early game hand is. And we have Incandescent Reliquary. Reliquary is one of our late game draw engines. You will almost always have lower influence than the opponent. If you don't, you're probably going to win anyway, because if your opponent's on low influence against you, they're in a really rough spot. And then Inert Sword. It's a 2/2 sword. It's pretty good in this list. We are running Cheshires, so buffs Cheshire. It's very solid. No reason not to play it. It's our main 12 for our material deck. Then we're going to be going over the main deck. First, we're going to talk about our kind of proactive setup cards. We are running a playset of Forest Cake. Forest Cake is just really good for early game draw. Lets us put some stuff down to banish to level. It's good for kind of our mid to late game if we're searching for stuff while still being able to put stuff down to draw off the, to banish from the Seiryuu at the end of turn. It's a good little utility piece. The buff counter is relevant for something later on. And then we are playing 3 copies of Idle Thoughts. Idle Thoughts is kind of a weird one, I will admit. I was running the distortion version of it, the 2-cost fast speed. And it was fine, but that was when I was running the normal Spirit, where you could play that and a 3-cost in the same turn. With us only having 6 influence guaranteed, I'd rather have the Idle Thoughts over something else, just because then we can play this and a 3 cost and not have to worry about if we have to choose one or the other. Then I will go over one of my favorite little packages here. So one of the pretty much the main reason, initially at least, that we were playing the Looking Glass is Chamber of Reflections. So Chamber of Reflections, if you don't know, is a domain that enters hindered. You can rest it and sacrifice it to search your deck for a non-advanced element, non-distortion domain that costs 3 or less, and put it into play. We are running 4 of these main board to search for, in order of importance, Gloamspire, Zhucheng, and Mad Tea Party. So Gloamspire lets you almost always draw every single turn, and there's some matchups where it's kind of middling, and some matchups where you just don't even want to bring out Gloamspire at all. Namely against suited, you don't want to let them go down on influence and then keep them back up to be able to refresh things, since they're already doing that. But against a lot of other decks, such as Onsol, against Luxum, they can't really take advantage of the Gloamspire because they have to work towards that specific number of influence all game in order to use it. So you are in a very good spot if you can bring out Gloamspire early. Zhucheng, similar but different. It is siegeable, so your opponent can remove it a little bit more easily, but it kind of slows the opponent down enough where they can't do everything they need to in a turn. So it gives you a really big tempo swing across multiple turns. It makes so that a lot of their main deck cards are... sorry, not their main deck cards, but a lot of the stuff that they want to do on their turn to advance their game plan, they just don't have the influence to be able to do everything they need to. So very good to bring this out early. Last we have Mad Tea Party. We really like recovering after the opponent keeps playing allies. This is not the same as clearing, but we do have some allies that can keep clearing, and if they keep dropping them down, if we have any taunts in the way, this will make it very difficult for them to get over us. So into allies matchups, Mad Tea Party is great. Then in terms of our allies, we are running 4 of the new Unyielding Wraithguard. Wraithguard is really, really good. So if you like Stalwart Shieldmate and the fact that it blocks a little bit of damage, Unyielding Wraithguard is amazing. So we are not running any really need for float. We can't pitch it. If we were running Creative Shock, etc., then we'd most likely run the Stalwart instead. But Unyielding Wraithguard is just so amazing. It being 2 instances of an O2 is great because it just stalls the board for much longer than it should. I did try out Fleeting Guard. I think there is an argument for Fleeting Guard. However, I don't like it too much unless you really want to go all in. And this deck is very tight with everything it's trying to do. You can swap some stuff around for sure, but there's not a whole lot of room for adding in an entire extra package into this. So for Unyielding Wraithguard, that's all the Spectres really need. We are also running 3 copies of Library Witch. This could be Stalwart Shieldmate. I prefer Library Witch because you care about the card in hand much more. Again, especially with Censor, this deck itself is main boarding Censor, so if you have that out, unless you are counting on your opponent using their removal on Censor, but you can kind of big brain that and use that to your advantage, but Library, which is generally a little bit more useful in this list. Then we are running 4 copies of Baby Green Slime. Baby Green is very good. Running it for the Forest Cake interaction. It's mostly there just for that, but it's also just very good at interrupting the opponent's plays. If you anticipate a lot of Onsol, if you want to stall out a Poison Dagger for a turn, etc., this does a lot. It's not a full keep. You could swap this out with something a little bit more impactful if you like. If you want to swap it with something that can clear allies more efficiently, nothing wrong with that at all. I personally like the Baby Green, but that's all personal preference. Then we are running 4 copies of Dungeon Guide, to no one's surprise. Like I said, we do go to level 3. You sometimes want to do this to even go to level 2 just to get some like quest counters. You can put you on the right tempo for certain abilities that need to be level 2 or higher, such as Brisk Windtrotter, which we will go over in a second. But it's just very nice. It's Dungeon Guide. There's nothing else really to say about it. It's just a very good card. Next, we are running 4 copies of Cheshire Cat. So Cheshire Cat is our second win condition in the deck. It's our main way to clear allies. It does everything the deck could want and more. It's a 3-cost 1/3, which sounds fine stat-wise. Spell Shroud and Stealth says your opponent is almost never actually clearing this thing unless they're doing very specific interactions with it. For example, a Cleave can technically get there. There are some Choose abilities that can clear it. A double Siphoning Trap will. But the main thing is, if they're wasting that specific resource on the Cheshire, you're probably in a better position anyway, because then they're kind of 2-for-1ing themselves in most cases, or using interaction they need to use on Seiryuu, etc. And a full 4 Cheshires mean you will always have more backup. You lose the buff counters if you have any on them, but it's fine. And again, the Cheshire with the Inert Sword means that she's actually a 3-cost 3/3 as long as you have the right setup, which is very strong. She gets plus X attack, where X is the total base power among your distortion weapons. We're only running the Inert Sword because our material deck space is also pretty tight, but I love having it. It's just a 3-cost 3/3, buffing it with Force Cakes with our 4 copies of Brisk Windtrotter is also very good. Brisk Windtrotter is, again, almost always just to buff the Cheshire Cat. If you have to do it for only 1 buff counter, sometimes you have to, if you need to put stuff down, etc. You would much rather try to save this to just get the 2 buff counters to make Cheshire a either 3/5 or 5/5, and then sometimes more. I have hit with Cheshire for 10 before, just because of all the buff counters from Brisk Windtrotter, etc. It's very nice, and sometimes, you just put the buff counters on a Dungeon Guide, or a Baby Green Slime, or even a Wraith Guard. If you don't have anything else, Windtrotter is a shockingly good card. And then lastly for the allies, we're running 2 copies of Young Beastponder. This card's fine. It's really just here to get an extra buff counter on Cheshires, etc. The float is almost irrelevant unless your opponent's clearing Young Beastponders, which they don't usually have a reason to. It's not really going to hit the grave. But being a 2-cost for basically 2 power, buffing Cheshire makes those buff counters last a lot longer to get a lot more value out of it. It's pretty nice. And then sometimes you're able to actually buff the Seiryuu, which gives it 2 buff counters. So it goes from a 4/12 to a 6/14, and that's where it starts to get really good. Next, we're going to go over our Seiryuu kind of win condition cards. We're running 4 copies of Byaku's Command, 4 copies of Seiryuu's Command, and 4 copies of Harmless Lightning. This is the standard for it. You're running 12 cards for the Seiryuu stuff. Everything else in the deck is to facilitate either this game plan, stall the game out a little bit, etc. So it's a really nice little compact package. If you happen to banish a single arcane throughout the whole game, then Seiryuu's Command lets you swing with Seiryuu. The on-attack will actually trigger 3 times. You'll be able to generate an Arcane Blast and Empower for 4 twice, because the Empower will see the new Arcane Blast plus whatever else, if you have at least 1 Arcane banished, like I said. And if you're level 3, that means you will Empower for 4. For 4, you're level 3, so you'll be able to play one of the Arcane Blasts for 0. So you'll be able to hit in for a lot of damage. The Byaku's Command. One of the other nice things about the Byaku's Command, actually especially, is you can use it as kind of a defensive tool as well. Because it's fast speed, it puts a buff counter, and then if it's a Shenju, you wake it up. So that means if you have your Seiryuu rested, you can kind of get your opponent thinking that your shield's down, and then you have a 5/13 blocking in the way. So it's a really good way to stall the opponent and punish them a little bit. Next, this is the kind of interaction package that we have. So one of the things we're doing when we are level 3, it's changed around a little bit, but I now have 2 copies of Regal Inquisition main. Regal Inquisition is a very powerful card. It lets you look at the opponent's hand and memory at the same time, Discard any number of those cards, so you get perfect hand information. You make them discard whatever you want, and then they have to reveal the top card of the deck for every one that they discarded and put those into the hand. So you can't tithe proc this away, but you get perfect hand information of what they have after that as well. It's a very strong card. This lets you take away their win conditions. If you're playing against Onsol, for example, just strip their Onsols. They can't do a whole lot with that. And the Crux Sites, of course, you don't want to have them keep that. You can cut away an Incarnate Majesty. You can take away Burst Asunders for Fractals, etc. Really strong card. We have 2 copies of Stifling Trap main. I would like to run more of these main sometimes. There's a lot of matchups where it's just not that relevant. So 2 copies is where I like for the main. We do have an extra one on the side, just in case we're in a matchup where we think it might be more needed. We are running 3 copies of Deflecting Edge. This is a new addition. I was running Slime Shield. Slime Shield feels pretty okay. The big problem is it's a spell, so you can't actually Slime Shield Seiryuu or the Cheshire Cat, whereas Deflecting Edge can, and we're running the Inert Sword, so I've had a few games already where it costs 0, and it's just really strong. The 0 cost is fine. You're mostly just here for that 3 damage prevention. You can use it on a Unyielding Wraith Guard. It's just a very strong card to stall the game out and protect potential allies. Carters, if you're playing at CL, will cleave the Cheshire most of the time, but if you have that Deflecting Edge, then they just don't have it. And your Cheshire can just keep swinging in, keep getting that damage in. And last for the main board, 3 copies of a Null Spell. A Null Spell is amazing. Hits Rally Abyss early. It hits stuff like Onsol. It hits Creative Shocks. It can interact with a lot of things. I'm almost considering Incapacitate, but it's really hard to keep up 5 cards and I want to go for your win condition. So in this list, I am running a Null Spell. If I could ever play a Incapacitate for only 3 even, I might consider it. But right now, a Null Spell is the best negate we can play in this list. Then for the sideboard, we're going to start with the material deck cards, which are Safeguard Amulet. Like I said, this is for anything doing non-attack damage, Luxum, etc. We are running Orb of Sealing. This has come up a little bit more often than I thought it would. This is specifically for CL. If anyone is on Rye or Slimes as well, there's now 3 decks where Orb of Sealing hits really well. It's really strong into those. Then we're running Candlelight Hourglass. Candlelight is specifically for suited. It can really mess up the opponent. I will often not even level up on my first materialization if I'm against suited, at least if I'm going first especially. I'll just bring out the Hourglass, draw the card for the on-enter, and then just let it do its thing, and then the suited player is in a much tougher position, especially if we're also able to bring out a Cheshire to just keep clearing those allies. And then for the main deck sideboard cards, we have Crystallized Destiny, running 2 copies of it. This is the most recent edition. It's specifically for stuff like Fireball. It's for anything that's going for us one specific big instance of damage. It's really good into the Oblation decks for CL. There's a lot of good uses for it. 2 copies of Zephyr. It's just Zephyr. You just need it sometimes. You'll know exactly when you need it. If you're looking through the sideboard, you see that it's going to be really useful in your matchup, you decide it in. That's all there is to it. 1 copy of Stifling Trap, just to bring us up to that 3 anytime we're against a deck. Specifically against level 3 decks a lot of times. Being able to Stifling Trap Dungeon Guide is always going to be good. And one of my favorite sideboard cards is Chibi. So Chibi is really cool because we can find it off of Chamber. It is probably the most backbreaking thing you can possibly play against suited, even including the Candlelight Hourglass. This is the list. It has damn near every single element, as you can see. It does a whole lot of control shenanigans. You're able to stall the game out. You have kind of 2 different win condition engines, a couple ways to draw cards throughout the game, have interaction. This is the closest thing I've had to a Magic-style control deck in Grand Archive in a very long time. If you like playing blue-white control in Magic, you're going to like playing this. And in the same way that control kind of differs based on your meta, etc., feel free to swap out any of the interaction pieces. If you think there's going to be some other allies that might be more useful, you can do that. It is a very versatile deck you can keep swapping parts in and out of. If at any point you feel like the chamber stuff isn't doing enough for you, swap out the different domains, go down by one, etc. There's so many routes you can take with this. I'd love to see what other people build using this kind of idea. So if you ever have any questions about this deck or just want to show and share what kind of builds you have, feel free to message me about it. Thank you everyone for your support. We're just about to hit 100 subscribers as time of recording, and it's been wonderful making videos for everyone. Hope you all have a great rest of your evening. Good night.